Okay, we're going to do least common multiple. We're going to do it two different ways. So we're going to do the first way. One thing that you can think of when you're saying least common multiple is if you're going to make a common denominator with these two things, what is the lowest number that they have in common that you can make a common denominator with? That's one way you can think of it, okay? But there's two different ways they're actually going to take you through least common multiple, and it's exactly what it says, least common. It's the lowest number they have in common. So on 21C2, what they're wanting you to do is they're wanting you to skip count by threes and write out each number, skip counting by threes, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, up to where you have 10 numbers. So then that would be 18, 21, 24, 27, 30. That should be 10 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now let's skip count by sevens up to where you've got 10 numbers. So 7, 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, and if you look, this is 7 times 2, 7 times 3, 7 times 4, so forth, 7 times 5. So that'd be 49, 56, 63, 70. Okay, then what the book is wanting you to do is circle the numbers that they have in common. Okay, so here they have 21 in common. Then I think that might be it. Those are the only numbers that they have in common. Making sure I'm not missing something. So then there you go. If they had some other number higher than this in common, the lowest number they have in common is 21. And if I was to make a common denominator, that is the lowest number I would use to make a common denominator with both of those. Okay, let's look at number 21C, number 1. So we're going to do the least common multiple of 7 and 8. Okay, so 7, we just did skip counting by 7. So 14, 21, 28, 35, 42, 49. You're just basically adding 7 every time. 63, 70. Okay, now skip counting by 8, meaning I'm adding 8 every time. 16, 24, 32, 40, 48, 56, 64, 72, 80. Okay, now the book is wanting you to circle all the numbers that they have in common. I don't think they have anything in common until right here, 56. And then there's not anything in common after that. So the lowest number that they have in common, least, lowest. The lowest number they have in common is 56. So that is your least common multiple. And if I was to make a common denominator, that would be the lowest number that I could use for both of those. Okay, before we go into the second way of doing the least common multiple, we need to talk about prime factors. What does prime mean? Prime means that there are no other factors, and by the way, factors are multiplication, that there are no other factors other than itself and 1. For example, 2 is a prime number. I can't break 2 down into any other number except for 2 times 1. 3 is a prime factor. I can only break it down into 3 and 1. 4 is not prime. It can be broken down into 2 other numbers other than itself and 1. 5 is a prime number. It can only be broken down into 5 and 1. So that is an example of prime number. So we're going to build a factor tree for all of these to determine the prime factors for these numbers. Looking at 21B, number 6, we're going to break down 32 into all of its prime factors. So to build a factor tree, we start with 32, and then you're going to break it down into 2 numbers. You can do this more than one way, okay? So I'm just going to pick this into 4 and 8, because 4 times 8 is 32. Well, I can keep breaking down 4 into 2 times 2, and I can break down 8 into 4 times 2. I can't break 2 and 2, all these 2's down into anything else except 2 and 1. But I can keep breaking that down into 2 times 2. So now you need to pick all your numbers at the bottom of the tree, at the bottom of these branches. That, and that. Those are all prime factors of 32. So the way you write your answer is the prime factors are, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the way you write the answer. And if you multiply this all out, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32. So 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 is 32, and this is broken down into prime factors. Okay, now let's do 21C number 7. We're going to break down 28. We're going to break it down into its prime factors. Okay, so again, there's more than one way to start this out. I'm going to break this down into 4 times 7. Okay, 4 can be broken down into 2 times 2. I can't break down 7 anymore other than 7 and 1. So once you get down to a prime number to where it's only can be broken down to itself and 1, that's where you stop. And so I take all my numbers at the bottom of my factor tree, at the bottom of the branches, and then those are my prime factors. So the prime factors of 28 are 2 times 2 times 7. And that's how you write the prime factors. And that is true because 2 times 2 is 4 and 4 times 7 is 28. These are the prime factors of 28. Okay? We're going to use that idea to find the least common multiple of two different numbers. So this is the second way of learning how to find the least common multiple. Alright? So looking at 21B number 9, we need to find the least common multiple of 20 and 32. So my recommendation is to write it this way to show your work. 20, we're going to break 20 down into its prime factors. Then we're going to take 32 and break it down into its prime factors. So off to the side, you need to do a factor tree. So you're doing a factor tree of 20, breaking it down 4 times 5. 4 can go down to 2 and 2. So the prime factors of 20 are 2 times 2 times 5. So over here I'm going to write 2 times 2 times 5. Okay, now I need to do 32. So doing a factor tree for 32, we just did it. 4 and 8, I can break that down into 2 and 2. This can be 4 and 2. I can keep breaking that down into 2 and 2. I need to take everything at the bottom of the branches. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 5 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So the way that you do least common multiple is you take the ones that they have in common. They have this 2 in common. They have this 2 in common. Okay? So only take one of these once. Okay? They have these 2's in common, so I'm going to take one of them one time times one of these 2. That's that one. So one of those. Now, there's nothing else that none of these have in common, so I have to use all the rest of them. So I need to use that 5, then 3 2's. So the ones they have in common, you only take one time. Those in common, one time. Now write all the rest. And then you multiply all of that together. This is why I have the multiplication in between. So it's 2 times 2 times 5 times 2 times 2 times 2. Well, if I do all my 2's, 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 2 is 32. Now I need to multiply the 5. So 32 times 5. And again, I'm okay that y'all use your calculators to multiply all this together. And that came out to 160. So if we did it the first way by skip counting, if we skip counted by 20, and then we skip counted by 32, the lowest number they would have in common is 160. This is the second way to do the least common multiple. Okay, look at 21C number 12. On the instructions on this say you can do it either way you want to. You can either do it the first way or the second way. I will always choose to do it the second way with the factor trees, okay? I don't know if it's faster or slower, but I usually just do that because I usually can get it more correctly with a factor tree. So with that, then I'm going to write down my prime factors for 10, and then I'm going to write down my prime factors for 15, okay? So then over here, I do a factor tree for 10. That can be broken down to 5 and 2. 5 and 2 cannot be broken down any more than itself and 1. So then I know the prime factors for 10 are 5 times 2. Then I do the prime factors for 15. 5, 3. Neither one of those can be broken down any more other than itself and 1. So now I know the prime factors for 15 are 5 times 3. So I look at what they have in common. I personally circle them because it helps me keep my work straight. Then the lowest common multiple, what they have in common, you only use it once. So I use 5 one time, then I have to use all the rest of the numbers. Now 2 times 3. And you're multiplying all of these numbers together. 5 times 2 is 10, 10 times 3 is 30. So your least common multiple of 10 and 15 is 30, meaning if I was going to make a common denominator, the lowest number that I could turn them both into is 30.